You beloved and holy friends, thank you so much for joining me here again today. In another moment, I don't know if the word is stressing, but mildly anxious about not having a thing I want to say today, if that makes sense. I didn't know what was the topic going to be about, if you will. And I didn't try to force it. I try to kind of feel into it, as we kind of get closer to it. And today's came like literally minutes before we had to stream. And it was this conversation I had with Johan yesterday about human belief, and the power of human belief. So I'm gonna start off. Believe or belief? Belief kind of has these attachments of this is what I believe in, and believe in itself kind of makes me think of just as a statement. Believe. I think I'm gonna keep that one. How's it going, power bottoms? I don't know what that means. Like, you kids are too hip for me these days, dude. A power bottom? A power bottom. Why do I feel like I remember one of my friends talking about something like that? Christian, what's a power bottom? Don't laugh. I thought that it was gay. I thought that Adrian told me about it, but I don't know what it means. It's like oh well, I guess I can figure it out. Fucking Lane. It's okay. I don't either. Okay, Lane also doesn't know what he's talking about. Apparently, it's a gay thing. Lane, the more we know, dude. The more we know. Thank you for joining me, dude. What do you believe in, Lane? I feel like I'm gonna get an answer from you, like something like, I don't believe in anything. No, I don't believe in anything. Well, what do you believe in, dude? Do you believe in something? Do you find there's value in believing in something? Like I believe that there is some value in believing in something fundamentally to human beings, just because we try to believe in things all the time. Like we really like stories as human beings as well, and we can convince ourselves that these stories are true through belief, literally belief. So my intention is believe, you know, like whatever that means to me. What do I want to believe in? I want to write two intentions on this little joint actually. So believe and discern maybe. Because if you're going to believe things, you need to discern between the things that you do want to believe and the things that you don't. And I genuinely, I'm asking seriously, friend, tell me what you believe in. Like, I'm asking this from a perspective of wanting to learn more, wanting to find maybe something within myself that I don't even know that I can believe in. This weekend was a reminder to me again about believing in my own ability to create. You know, like it kind of gave me some patience. It kind of gave me some patience in the sense of what I want to create. At least in a lot of ways, don't have mediums to be expressed in, or means to be experienced through just yet. And that's okay. That's completely okay. I believe that it's okay. And because of that, it becomes a visceral feeling inside of me, something that I cannot ignore. What feelings does the thing or do the things that you believe in give you? Like that's the real thing about belief, is there's a feeling into it as well. Hello, Onyx. It's nice to see you again, friend. Thank you for joining us. I believe in life after. I believe in love. Do you believe in life? There we go. I got the rhythm. Thank you, Lane, for the bamboozle, dude. Do you believe in life after love? So, like in the way that that is interpreted, like if like that exact way of saying it, do you believe in life after love? As in, you found your love and then you potentially lost it. Do you think life continues afterwards? In that case, yes. But I also believe that love is ceaseless in the same way that life is. believe and discern are the two messages ingrained into this joint right now. Literally part of it. Cannot be separated from it. Every single puff I'll take will be smoked with that intention in heart. If you're asking seriously, I honestly don't know what I believe in anymore. It's been hard to find my way. It has been that way, right? Lane? Like, especially since we find ourselves in a little bit of a rebellious mindset. Like, we don't want to believe the things that have been believed in ways, and yet we're like still like, huh, like these things are kind of cool. How about this thing? Aveli, Mild, hello, au revoir to you, my friend. Thank you for joining us again. It's so nice having you here, Aveli. How have you been? How's life been treating you? Have you been singing? I know a little bit more now. Naren is joining us again, reporting on today. Hello, my friend. You don't have to worry about being late ever. I know no matter where you are, you're going to be there in love. You know, this is something that Christian said yesterday, is allow yourself to be in love. You know, and it was like a little bit of one of those chats where you're like in it, if you will, if you know what I mean. So you feel even more to those type of words. But you know, not only when it comes to a person, like be in love with your environment, be in love with the way that you treat yourself, be in love with the things that you do, be in love with the way you commute, be in love with the little creatures that you live with. You know, just be in love. Actually be in love and believe that you can be in love. Again, you know, that belief almost comes first. And it can be difficult sometimes to believe things that we haven't experienced before. How do you stream on this subreddit that's not on the main list? Tesra-chan, I have magic powers, my friend. Magic technomancery powers. Or maybe, just maybe, someone else had magic technomancery powers and allowed me to stream this subreddit, my friend. Me and Uncle Becky are friends, so we know one another. We communicate, you know, off stream as well, on stream as well, and we have the most amazing chats. And we are trying, you know, actively to build a community that is based around wholesome exchange. You know, recognizing each and every single one of us as a divine individual, recognizing us as holy beings, and then in recognizing that, spend time in a way that we can recognize that together for one another. And this space, you know, Haywire Hill is the house or the home of wholesome in that way. They want to make both the physical space and this online space one that is a home of wholesome. We can share good vibes, positive feelings, you know, understandings here with one another, look into each other's lives and feel seen. Thank you for joining me. Reporting on top. Again, it's nice to have you here, Naren. Thank you, Pinda, for the gold. I do love gold. Blaze it. I'll blaze it soon enough, Sword Noob. I hope you are having a good day, my friend. Are you going to light it or not? Man, Sword Noob, you know, I have this rebellious streak within me where if someone pressures me to do something kicks in, dude. Resists to it, doesn't want to get closer to it, but I'll smoke it, I promise. Gave the wholesome bonk. Yeah, like we have the bad hammer, so if someone, you know, steps over the line, we bad hammer them. I didn't even know that the award was available yet. That's amazing, Onyx. Thank you for enlightening me as well, friend. Woo! It's kind of hot in here. I had to close the windows because someone was listening to music outside and I didn't want to bother us. And thank you for the energy. I appreciate that, Chan. It's lit, friend. Sword Noob, I hope you're happy, friend. It's lit. I've been, and you friends know as well, I've been mixing my cannabis with something called Mullein, or Mullein, Mullein. It's a smokable herb that apparently has benefits. Do you call it benefits? Health benefits to smoking it. And mixing that with my weed has become almost now a common practice. You know, not because it's something that's addictive, But because it kind of like makes the actual smoking experience a little bit lighter, I can't smoke no more. So smoke up for me. Live vicariously through me, smoke. Sword noob. I'll call you smoke noob from now on, dude. Unless you don't like that. I'll smoke for you, friend. The consistency with which I forget to bring an ashtray into the room with me is astounding. So I'll be back in 1 second. Ooh, do chat amongst yourselves. Keep the space open, please. The year you're still alive? Check one, check two, check one, check two. Is your base going along? Very slowly, yes. That's how we do also now. Keep going, man, keep going. Skin up, up, and do. Christian is playing some Subnautica. So he's been in a different world. It looks like a lot of fun. I played a bit of it, but never really finished it. It's basically this game where you're stranded on a different planet, and you basically have a wetsuit, and then you start swimming, and you're like finding random materials that can help you. And then you start building better swimsuits, radiation suits, eventually vehicles, eventually underwater bases, finding weird, alien artifacts and stuff like that, and then trying to escape the planet is like the whole gist of it. Discern, believe, perceive. Maybe they go perceive, discern, believe, actually. Thank you, friends, for joining me. Thank you for the wholesome joy. So nice to have you here, my friend. How are you doing? How's life been treating you? Has it been fair? I feel life has been a little bit more fair as of late. I was getting a bit into a salty state of mind. Where do I put that lighter? Man, I joke with myself sometimes, and say that there is somewhere on my body sometimes a portal to another realm, and I'll put something down and it will just like disappear. It's kind of astounding. I think that God does not exist. Okay, so do you, like you're saying you think God does not exist. Do you believe what you're thinking in that way? Do you believe that God doesn't exist at all? Or is it because of something that you perceived in your reality that made you believe that God doesn't exist? Because it can be a very difficult thing for us to say. I went through a stint of not believing in God as well. When I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, like those years were my atheist years. I didn't believe God existed. I believed I was just a meat sack, and that my thoughts and my personality was modulated by the firing of my little neurons. And then when those neurons stopped firing, I ceased to be. That was what I believed for the longest time. But now, I don't believe that exactly. I still believe that a lot of how we experience this reality is modulated by those things, but I don't believe it is created by those things. I believe there is a larger, like actual I, like this I, observer is a better word for it technically, out there that is just like witnessing through us right now. And I believe, if anything, that can be this interpretation of God. And then realizing that that interpretation of God is within each and every single one of us, even within the animals, within trees, within the grass. Like there still is this perception of I, and then maybe I am in danger, or I need to get some water, or I need more sunlight. And then like grass or trees move themselves. They shoot more roots. Animals have self-preservation. They have social relationships with other beings as well. And it becomes this understanding that we can see one another more fully. That is what I believe in, if anything. What do you feel you don't believe God is real? Life is going well for me, thanks for asking. How are you, my friend? I'm doing well, George. I'm doing really well. Me and Christian and Johan had a fun weekend together, had a bunch of good chats. Whew, it's fun living with Christian. We always have good conversations. You know, like having just someone in the space with you that you feel you can be comfortable with, and you know, you don't have any obligations to, in a way of saying it, has been a very great experience. Like especially after spending a lot of time not in a space like that, you know. Oh, some change was necessary. Whew. And it's given me a lot of perspective, which I always appreciate. And thank you, George. Have you ever done acid before? Sword noob. Like I would lie if I said I didn't, but I also don't want to go outright and say I did or do. Like we call them by animal names, like that when you mentioned being lions, you know, for LS, you know, like starting of lions. MD is meerkats, mush is monkeys, deems is dolphins, and then we kind of talk about it in that way. Just so that if anybody has to listen in, you know, and they don't know what these things are, they won't learn about them through me, but they might hear something about them, like vaguely, like question like why do dolphins do these things? Why do monkeys do these things? But yes, I have, friend. I have experienced that before. Technically, it's you know, a chemical that bonds to your H2A receptor more efficiently than your own naturally produced serotonin. So it has like a little bit of a latching effect, making the experience last, you know, upwards of 12 hours, well, upwards of 18 hours, but at least 12 hours. And it can be a very light experience. I feel it's significantly lighter than monkeys, for example, where monkeys, like we were talking about this weekend as well. Lions have this little bit of a playfulness to it, lightness to it, where you can kind of steer it, and monkeys kind of like sit down, listen. And in that way, I'm more of a student than I am a player, if that makes sense. So the monkey experience, you know, the kind of sit down, listen type of experience is something that I appreciate more than the outwards, energetic. Like I appreciate both, you know, I appreciate both so much. But when it comes to something that I would do frequently, I would lean more towards monkeys. How about you, friend? Have you tried it before? What is your opinion of it? I think that was Sword's question. You ever had a yeah, so tight pants, I was talking about that as well. I have, my friend. Sometimes I believe in zodiac signs. Only sometimes, Onyx. You know, like that's also something that I guess I would say if I had to say the same thing, is this is sometimes type of thing. You know, but it's sometimes in the way where if you go and read about zodiac signs, it's a broad type of understanding, but even though it's broad, it is still, it feels pretty personal slash specific to us. So if you're like a, you know, a Taurus or whatever, and you go and read like character traits of what Tauruses are likely to do, then you're like, oh, some of these things I can actually see happening and being true for me. And in that way, I can understand why you say you sometimes believe it's true. But fundamentally, the zodiac signs was human beings trying to find patterns within the sky and then creating these subtypes. You know, if we were to just move our perspective, you know, closer to another star or closer to another planet, all of those stars' positions will completely shift and it will be completely different. So, will other human beings born on other planets or potentially in other star systems have to have new zodiac signs, or will they still show these archetypal behavior within human beings? I get it. I get it. It's difficult. I believe in evolution of species. I believe that bacteria have evolved into human beings. All plants, animals, and human beings have evolved from bacteria, or you can say single-celled organisms. I get you, Raja. Like, I believe the same thing, but I believe that it is driven by this want to be, this almost awareness. It's an awareness of yourself, and then an awareness to like go forward, if you will. It's like intelligence drives evolution, evolution doesn't drive intelligence, type of thing. So like that single-celled organism had to have this drive to go forward, to go beyond, and then literally splits into two of itself, and then it gains that as an understanding. It's like, oh fuck. You don't know what you don't know, and then that thing knew, and then the knowing of that made more and more of it, and eventually we became these literal trillion being organisms, having came from single cells, experiencing a part of infinity, knowing that there are billions of molecules of water that I'm drinking right now, being held by billions of molecules of a polymer, that we've stringed together, while I'm smoking plant material that happens to have tetrahydrocannabinol, in the leaf. That stuff literally gets absorbed by 1,400 miles of air pathways in my lungs, and then I get to experience that. And then, on top of that, I add, words. Literally these, how do you explain it? Spells, just call it spells. These words that we have created with these beings. And then we assign these values, these understandings, these feelings to these words. Like the words that I have on the joint, for example, is discern and believe. And those two words together create a visceral experience in me just to think about them in that way. And then I'm, adding some tetrahydrocannabinol to that mix. Human beings, dude. What the fuck? Like, we came from single-celled organisms, but now we're doing things so beyond that, that it feels like there's this underdriving energy to it. There's this push towards being more, knowing more, understanding more. And I don't think that is just influenced by evolution alone. How do you feel about this, Roger? I hope you have a good stream. Love you, man. Love you, God. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Tight Pants says, from bacteria, huh? I wonder what kind of human form will evolve from E. coli. I don't think E. coli would work. Would it? Kyle, looking good, bro. You've lost some weight since viewing on Reddit last year. I have, Kyle. Thank you for joining me, dude. I've lost like 20 kilograms since last year around this time. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. You are so loved. We're talking about some cool shit today. We're talking about belief, and like technically we're talking about stuff that we do believe, and belief in itself is this kind of like fickle thing, because even though we believe in these things, it doesn't necessarily make them real in and of itself. But if we believe in something long enough, we can make it real in and of itself. That's this paradox. My own narrative was completely shattered. Made me feel that the drug was just a drug and really has no deeper meaning to it. I mean, technically, the substance in itself doesn't have any meaning to it. Technically, it's literally a chemical structure. If you were on that scale, it would be like a chair. Just like, oh, chair has these legs here, has a sitting surface here, has a little back here. That's technically what these compounds look like, from a chemist perspective. So if you understand that, and you can make the chair look like a chair, if you know what I mean, that chair will be used as a chair in your brain. But that chair technically is the information of chair then. You see chair, you can feel the chair, you can sit on the chair, you can be like, oh, this is a chair. And technically by existing, That chair gives you that information. I'm stretching this analogy a little bit. And in the same way, for instance, a psilocin molecule, the molecule derived from psilocybin in magic mushrooms being phosphorylated in your liver and then sent out to your brain, it looks like a chair. So it functions as a chair in your brain, and then it just gives you the information that your brain is capable of perceiving. So the compound isn't the thing that is giving you the experience, it's you. It's you with more information. That's what it is. And with that, as you're saying, your complete narrative of what the world is shatters. Everything melts away. Like all of the stuff that you think you know and the things you believe about yourself, about the world, about your place in it, just melts right in front of your face. I believe that there is no objective reality. Each living organism has its own objective reality. That's really interesting, Raja. That's really interesting. I mean, I feel in a way that could be perceived as a possible truth. No, each living organism has its own objective reality, but collective living organisms have a societal reality as well. Like even though I agree completely with you that we each live in our objective realities, and there's a lot of stuff that influences the way that we perceive these objective realities, like a lot of things that influence it. But we also have a way of integrating that. We have a way of trying to communicate our objective realities to one another. And I believe that the fact that we can communicate is why we have the world we have right now. Is because instead of just living in our own objective realities, we started communicating not only our objective realities, but also our hoped objective realities. For instance, maybe it started off as like a communicating about food sort of thing, collaborating to hunt. You're like, your objective reality, you're sitting around a fire, everybody is hungry. Now, the objective reality that you are in is one of a state of hunger, and the objective reality you want to be in is one where you're feasting on something. So you communicate that. You try and create within the other person. They might be experiencing it themselves, but might also not have a way of actually communicating this one to the rest of the people in their immediate environment. So you create this shared objective reality of something that would benefit both of us. Oh, we go hunt something, both of us are going to enjoy this objective reality of feasting. And in that way, we basically get people on board to share an objective reality, or at least the hope/possibility of an objective reality. And as a result of that, we build entire civilizations. We build entire civilizations. And we've been building on an objective reality that is based around, financial wealth instead of societal wealth. If we build this entire thing not on this perspective of how can only me, and maybe just a few other people experience abundance in this, and how can we keep as much of that abundance just for ourselves, instead of how can we utilize this abundance to make everything better around us, the possible living environments, the way we go to work, the way we communicate, the things we expect other people to do, the fears we have around other people's lack, and as a result of that, potential danger that we're in as a result of that, taking all of that stuff away on a level of understanding that you're trying to benefit the whole instead of just trying to benefit yourself. And I genuinely believe that that is the objective reality we're trying to accept right now. We're trying to make a reality right now. And that's what we gotta believe in. We have to believe in it. Good morning, Marvin. Tip of the hat to you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing, Marvin? How exactly does belief work? Having faith, logic, religion? I'm not exactly sure how you want me to answer that question. How exactly does belief work? It's a good question, because I feel I can't answer it properly, at least not on the fly. How does belief work? I think It's a manipulation or an illusion that you spell for yourself. So good. How are you doing, Mel? I'm doing so good, Marvin. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing good, my friend. Man, we've been talking about some cool stuff today, dude. Hmm. How does belief work? So, literally, you create either a narrative or a picture or an ideal outcome for yourself, and then you believe that to be true. Like, let's take the religion of like Christianity, for example. One of their core belief systems is in a deity called Jesus, that if you give your life to, you're set free, because this Jesus character already paid for your sins. All you have to do is accept him as your Lord and Savior, and then he has paid for your sins. But if you don't accept him, then he didn't pay for your sins. But he did pay for your sins, but you didn't accept them. Okay? And then you fundamentally believe in that because it takes away all of the responsibility of having to believe in yourself and your own actions. And I feel in that way it's something that's a little bit limiting, where the belief that we are in a way one, even though it's difficult to conceptualize because we feel as these very subjective individual beings, the understanding or the belief that we are one isn't one that takes anything away from your individuality. Quite the contrary, it allows you to give as an individual to something that you know is yourself. And we already know that that giving nature is something that human beings thrive in. It's our preferred state of being, helping other beings, because we know that, oh, this being might be at a position where they could use help, and I'm in a position where I can provide help, and you don't lose anything helping. I mean, maybe in some sort of financial way, but you're not at a loss for helping, and this person is at the gain for being helped. And in that way, you're literally bringing up the entire consciousness. In that way, the understanding of one consciousness, one, all of us, is something that I believe is more beneficial than this kind of blame shifting slash blame transference, even, if you will. Just my personal opinion. I have to start getting ready to go to a restaurant. Take care, Raja. Tip of the hat to you, friend. You were nice to have a chat with. Started to get ready to go to a restaurant. I mean, I get you. I believe in the DMT elves. Like 100,000 tabs. That's a lot. Like, I feel it's not something that needs to be believed in. It's something that's known, almost, right? So, like, saying you believe in them, I feel almost creates this sense within yourself that there is something to be believed in. Like, you don't believe in gravity. You just like, yeah, gravity is a thing. Like, that's kind of how it feels for me. And like, it's called DMT elves, and just because of that, I feel it's already creating a barrier. I call them self-transforming machine elves instead. You know, like, and I know it's a Terence McKenna saying, but that one makes a little bit more sense to me. It's it's much though. It's so much. And then there's this intention slash perception in the material universe that taking this compound produces these hallucinations, and then we convince ourselves that these things are real. So again, in your way of saying believe, but in the way that I kind of perceive this information is in this way of becoming aware of what is, really what is, and then realizing how much you don't know what actually is. So it's not a belief thing, it's more a coming to awareness of, if that makes sense. 100,000 tabs. What are your thoughts about psychosis in a psychological perspective? Ooh, separation. I feel like, and this is just me speaking out of literal canon, I don't know anything, but I feel psychosis fundamentally is the separation or an attempt to separate, and then a toxic response to that. Like, technically the ego, and certain levels of psychosis can, have multiple egos, is this entity that wants to survive within us as beings. You know, we believe our ego is this, and for some people is this fragile thing, you know, that if we knock it on the door or someone says something that we might feel is offensive to us personally, we get so offended, we get so riled up because this ego is something that's like, am I dying? Is that person trying to kill me? And then you have experiences, you know, like let's call it a high dose psychedelic experience, where your default mode network, this sense of self that you kind of hold on to, get down regulated. And then all of the patterns that you've been repeating to yourself as yourself is just kind of not accessible. And then you realize, oh, there is still so much more, so much more left within me that is unexplored, that I pretend is not me, that I pretend I'm not capable of. And then you realize, oh, I see. We're the infinite beings, friends, you know, and then trying to hold on to that in a way that is, I want to say naive, you know, like the mature hope versus immature hope. Immature hope is the hope for something to be very specific in one way only and expecting no alternative. Where mature hope is the hope for things to be better in general, you know, or just hope for things to be in general, bad or good. And it's a very weird difference, but I believe if you're completely enamored with immature hope, hoping for things to be only in a specific way, and convincing yourself that you're only going to be happy if things are a certain way, then you're setting yourself up for like bad stuff, even downright psychosis. Psychosis. I'm late, Suspender Matrix. Morning, friends. No, you're here. Thank you, friend. Like, I genuinely believe in using words that give us power instead of taking power. You know, like Christian has been a little bit sick lately, and then he says, "Oh, I'm so sick," you know, and I'm like, "No, you say I'm getting better." I'm feeling better every day, you know, like yes, I am sick. You're still admitting to being sick. You're still making it vocal. But instead of projecting, stating, I am this thing, you're stating the thing you want to be. I am getting better. You're not late. You are here, and we appreciate you, my friend, so much. Jesus Christ is for me as real as gravity. You know, I completely respect that. The way up is down. It's a very cool username as well. I completely respect that. I don't try and, you know, belittle you at all. I just believe it takes a lot of responsibility away from us as individuals, you know, and with the whole gravity belief thing, it's here, you know, I'm being held onto this surface because of gravity. I have mass, you know, where this entity, this deity that has been created in the Christian religion isn't something like that. You know, we don't even truly know. Like, it's not actually factual that Jesus existed. It's a story. It's a really good story, but the story as it is was at most word of mouth. And then that word of mouth got written down literally, I think something like 6 decades, maybe even 7 decades after the proposed death of Jesus. And these pieces that was written is literally pieces, like little scraps of paper. So, and then it got word of mouth slash translated slash rewritten again and again, and then it got translated, and again it got rewritten and rewritten, and then it got changed for the Catholic Church to have certain things in it and certain things not in it, like resurrection, or not resurrection, reincarnation, that's the right word, was apparently a thing in the Bible as well. And it was like, nah. That gives them too much freedom. Got that shit. Apparently, I'm not saying these things are true. You know, like from my personal research I've done, these things have come back consistently. So in that way, I don't feel it is as real as gravity to me personally. Like, can you explain how you feel that personal connection? If you can do that with me, I would so appreciate it. Belief is fake, says architect. Do you believe belief is fake? I think if you believe belief is fake, maybe belief will be fake to you. But if you believe in yourself, like let's take your username architect. If you want to be an architect and you believe I can be an architect, then you can bet your ass you're gonna become an architect because you believed it, and it's something that's possible. Don't limit yourself by not believing in belief, friend. Believe in yourself, if anything. Good morning slash afternoon, friends. On the B, I actually wanted to reach out to you directly, and here we are now in the same space. So thank you so much for joining me. How did your court meeting go? Did it go okay? Were they understanding? Please tell me. I'm so curious. I believe that this too shall pass. Everything is temporary. I believe in the continual self-discovery. Me too, Naren. Me too, friend. Absolutely. And it is, technically, all of it is continued self discovery, self expression. And another word that I like to use is ceaseless creation. Whew. And the trip about it is that it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to have a point. It doesn't have to have a point. Technically, fundamentally, it's needless. It doesn't need anything. It just is. Harry Prey says, I saw you on Reddit one time when I was feeling particularly depressed. You cheered me up and I gave you Reddit gold. Why, thank you, Harry. You're so appreciated, friend. So nice to have you here again. I hope I'm like a little bit, just a little bit making your day better, increasing your mood. You're loved. I appreciate you joining us and for sending a message or a comment. Isn't belief in something that is taught repeatedly from generation to generation? That's religion. You can believe in yourself. You can believe that you can do a backflip and then practice over and over again, and you'll be able to do a backflip eventually. Thanks, man. Thank you to you, Harry. Thank you to you, friend. I believe that people take science for granted while they enjoy things like the internet and GPS and other things, and it's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Raise the dead. You're completely right, my friend. Especially when people have these conspiracies, about science, like, oh, it's a hoax, science is a lie, science, is like trying to keep us down or something like that, or oh, people are conspiring against us in science, not letting us know everything, and maybe like there is a lot of stuff hidden, for financial reasons, but not for a conspiratorial reason. Ugh. Ooh. And then, oh, the government is tracking me, and they tweet this from their cell phones. And I'm like, yeah, I agree, right? I believe it too. I mean, as example, humans believe 1 plus 1 equals 2. We believe we don't fly to space because something called gravity. You get what I mean, right? I get what you mean, tight pants. But that's how it is. We don't believe in, it's just how it is. If I have one apple and I have another apple, now I have two apples. I don't have one apple, one apple. I have two apples. So we like learned how to name things. And then we had like, oh, I am, and space is, and I am not flying into space. So gravity. Where believe in a deity because the deity died for you and took all of your sins onto himself thousands of years ago, and he did it for everyone, and if you don't believe in him, he doesn't save you, but if you do believe in him, he does save you. Like that is a little bit more convoluted than 1 plus 1 slash I don't fly into space, so gravity. Tight pants. That's the way I feel about it. At least, like, it makes more logical sense to me than the rest do. Good morning slash afternoon. What a good question to ask. What one believes in, right, Nancy? What do you believe in, friend? What do you feel yourself believing in after the experiences that you've had? Do you feel there is more value in believing in your immediate experience than there is believing in these preconceptualized religions? That's basically the question we've come across right now. It's exactly because of gravity. I almost messaged you last night. On B, I wanted to message you as well, so please feel free to. Like, I really welcome it. I've been super busy and like away from my phone, but it's not because I don't want to talk. Like, if the message is sent, it is in the universe, and when I come back to reply to it, it will go back into the universe. So, like, we'll find each other in that moment every single time. So this enters the question of manifest destiny. It does, Panda. And I feel it's difficult because we talked about so much of this stuff this weekend, like the whole manifesting your destiny through belief. We have friends that are extremely depressed, in our immediate environments, very depressed, have been through like difficult stuff, but at the same time, they're playing 9 hours of video games a day. Because they're playing 9 hours of video games a day, they're like ordering fast food or eating, like the bare minimum. And then on top of that, not exercising properly, not getting outside and getting some sunlight, not having proper social interactions with other people, and then still being depressed. And then also on top of that, telling themselves the story of how depressed they are, how mundane life is, how boring this existence is. And all of them are these very intelligent beings, like there's nothing wrong with them on an intellectual level, but it's this story that they tell themselves, this thing they believe about themselves and their life experience. And as a result of this, it's becoming their life experience. What they believe is becoming literal manifested reality for them. And how do you explain that to someone without sounding patronizing or insensitive? And it's rough. It's so rough, Pando. But we have to take responsibility, like on a fundamental level, even on the level of like the thoughts that just go through our minds, the things that we vocalize and then, put into someone else's mind. Again, this understanding of belief or, shared objective reality. If you share your objective reality as one that is boring, as one that is horrible, as one that is, not to be desired, if you will, then you're technically trying to convince someone else to have that objective view of reality as well. And unfortunately, that's what's happening with this friend group. Like, it's the four friends that are constantly feeding into this negativity. And it's difficult. It's so difficult. Lately, I've been trying out. Lately, I have been trying out. I'll see it when I believe it. And good/bad news is impermanence. Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that actually. To the stars, Pando. Tight Pants says, now hear me out. What if it's the same with the religion? The world we live in have a variety of religions, yeah. Now, how many gods should we choose to believe? Should it be one? What is your opinion on that? So, Tight Pants, I fundamentally believe that every single interpretation slash conceptualization of what God is a false one. Because there's no way for as a human being to even get close to conceptualizing what God is. Like, just think about the scale of our universe, right? Like, okay, no, that's maybe too big. I'm sorry. Let's think about the scale of our planet, right? Just imagine yourself on your planet. Imagine yourself in your room right now. You're like, oh, this room is bigger than I am, right? Yeah, okay. Now your house or your apartment building, pretty big. Now your entire block, okay? I'm getting pretty small. Now your entire city, I can't really see myself anymore. Now the entire country you're in, now the entire planet. How small are you now? Now the entire solar system, with our planet being a little speckle, in our solar system. Now our galaxy, with our star not even being visible. Now our galaxy as literal grains of dust within our infinite universe, with billions of other galaxies out there as well. And now you want to tell me that a human being can conceptualize something that created all of that and is above it, Like that, all of the infinity we see in this universe is a smaller set of infinity than God would be. Human beings cannot. It's impossible for a human being to like fundamentally be like, this is what God is. Because as soon as he points to something, he's trying to collapse God into a finite point of existence, which is impossible. Because that whatever that is, it exists outside of time. If time is a smaller infinity inside of what God is. You know, it's impossible. It's fundamentally impossible. And I believe for that reason. That's fundamentally why I believe spirituality is the pursuit of knowing what that is. And finding that within yourself, seeing it within other people. That is what spirituality is about. Where religion is, this is what it is. Don't question, don't wonder. It's this. And all you have to do is these things, and then it's done. You're waxed. No, I don't believe that. Tight pants. I can't, unfortunately. Give me a sip of water. Oh, very nice. So I've encountered him in the darkest of times, and it's felt more real than any other experience in my life. And it's been the most precious experience in my life. The only thing that was entirely good, there was no downsides to it. Hmm. You know, the thing that makes me feel the way up is down is just that experience, you know, that there is no downside to it, is ever present. You don't need this entity to have that, friend. It's already with you. You are the one that experiences things like that. I go back to talk to the judge tomorrow, hopefully for the community. Oh, I hope so. Like, if there's anything, can I send an email? Can I send messages? Be like, hey, what up? Do the thing. Please, 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 please point me in the right direction, Auntie. And ever since, even if I wished I was never born, even if I wish that everything ended with death, I've not been able to convince myself that he doesn't exist. The way up is down, I have actually gone as far as to try and take my own life. You know, when I went super hard at atheism, if you will, I also had like an extreme sense of depression that came over me because I felt small, you know, and the understanding I have of God now is one that I'm a part of. You know, like as Jesus said as well, me and God are one. All of us and God are one. We are one. You know, like it's this fundamental understanding that there is no separation. And that's what Jesus tried to teach the world as well. And they killed him for it. And now we're basically killing one another, you know, maybe in a mental way, like we're writing people off, we're experiencing negativity towards them because of this difference in belief as well. Instead of just understanding that these things are minor to the way that we experience, as long as these fundamental understanding of human values are upheld. And the thing is as well, you know, in a true spiritual experience, these fundamental ways of treating other human beings become apparent. It's like, oh, obviously, oh, how could I not have seen this? It's like, oh, it's so clear. It's so clear. And in that way, I believe that that is something that is more true. You know, instead of having to have these stories told to you in a way that your human mind can conceptualize these ideas and be like, oh, okay, that's why it happens that way. You can literally experience these truths for yourself. And no religion does that. Not truly. Precious Mel, that works for me. How has it been out of Dad's house? It has been nice, Aunt B. And funnily enough, I find myself thinking about him a lot. You know, I find myself thinking about Mom. I find myself worrying, you know, that she doesn't have enough help. My mom and dad has been fighting, and my mom is not asking for help right now because she's being stubborn. So I want to be there to help her, but in that in that way as well, I feel maybe they'll miss me a little bit. You know, like I'll actually be happy to have me back. I can get so in my own head sometimes, Auntie. I love them so much. I look forward to seeing them again. It's been nice being outside of the house though. It's also given me perspective again on how much I appreciate it there. And it's given me perspective, the conversations I've had with Christian especially. Christian is very family oriented. And because I've always felt alienated within my family, not only alienated, but I want to say despised, in some ways. Not like, and it sounds weird, it sounds like, woe is me. Despised in the way where like they look at me like I'm an insane person. And maybe I am. Maybe I am an insane person, but at least be gentle with me, I'm crazy. And in that way, I've felt a very sheer disconnection with my family for a long time. And Christian has this genuine, beautiful connection with his family and this honor towards, I want to almost say obsession sometimes, like genuinely wants to honor his family and everything that he does. And that is something I'm almost completely opposite to. I believe in living my own life in a way that would be just in my own life, regardless of what my parents want. Because my parents want me to be fundamentally Christian, like that's the only thing they want. So it's been this experience of reevaluating how much I appreciate them, how much freedoms they have allowed me, how much they do care about me, even though they don't understand the things that I talk about sometimes. So it's been a growth period, as it always is, Auntie, as it always is. Nailed it. If you're depressed, think about the motions you're rolling through each. Exactly. And allow yourself some space. If you find yourself very depressed, allow yourself some space to actually do things outside of your depression. Like, I know that sounds weird. It sounds kind of vague even. So like I find, and this is I'm speaking from my personal experience now, when I was in a very depressive state, I found myself closing up in a very specific set of behaviors. I would do things that would make me feel temporarily good, and I would have a cycle to them, like do this thing, do this thing, do this thing, and be kind of in this loop, of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then I kind of got more and more depressed in that state, and then the little things that gave me a little bit of happiness became even more addictive because I was like, oh, this thing still makes me feel good for this moment while I'm doing it, and I'm depressed, so I need this thing. And it's like, so if you allow yourself some space outside of just those things, you try something else, you try and exercise a little bit, you eat something different rather than the same thing over and over again, you just change some of that behavior, break out of that space, you can literally free yourself. And it's a wild experience. You're doing good work, man. Thank you, Rays. I'm trying, friend, genuinely, and I feel sometimes I can't take credit for all of it. Like I feel sometimes I find myself saying things and I'm like, oh, oh goodness. So thank you, Rays, for being here with me, doing the same work. That's what it's about. Thank you for the respect. Tight pants, I appreciate you. It's an arrogant thing for humans to assume the composition and will of an omnipotent, omnipresent, omnisentient creator of time and space itself. Freaking toasty on the nose. Can't stay long today. Gotta focus on work today. I love you, Melt. I love you, friends. And we love you, Marvin. Thank you for sending some love before you leave. I hope you have an amazing day, friend. Toasty, you're completely right, dude. Thank you for the helpful, man. Like, it's so arrogant. It's the most arrogant thing, dude. And then knowing that level of arrogance, that level of not knowingness, on that level, all of us are equals, we're equals. And then talking about these things, conceptualizing things, verbalizing things, that's the fun part about having other equals around you. You get to have these conversations, you get to make up the most grand of stories, and you can be like, huh, that's pretty cool. How about this story? And you tell your story. It doesn't even have to be like a story about yourself. It can just be a story about something conceptualized, for example. And that is what's beautiful about the reality that we're living in. As soon as you want one story to be the only one that's the true story, you're cutting out all of these potential conversations that could be had. Like they might be completely arbitrary. Like, for example, oh, this might trigger some people. but it's not supposed to. Okay, it's not supposed to trigger anybody. It's just a conceptualization of how infinity works. If you have an infinite amount of monkeys on an infinite amount of typewriters pressing random buttons for an infinite amount of time, out of that infinity, every single book will come that has ever been written, will ever be written. And on top of that, the Bible could be the first one that has ever been written in this infinite maze of monkey typewriter pressing buttons. Like, there's gonna be a monkey that presses to the button every single letter in sequence. That's what infinity means. And then we can kind of imagine something like that. It's not easy, but you can kind of imagine something like that. And we're these literal, minuscule, imperceivably small specks of existence on an inconceivably small speck of planet, in an inconceivably small little solar system, in an inconceivably small galaxy, and then we're like, yeah, this is what God is, creator of all of this shit, and my capacity to actually imagine some of this shit. This is what it is. No, I'm sorry, no. No, thank you again for the helpful toasty, for the awesome answer, tight pants. I'm happy you appreciate it. For the hugs, infamous one, love you, friend. I love this talk. I'm a Muslim, by the way, so yeah, thank you, tight pants. Like, you've been a beautiful co-creator. Thank you for asking these questions. Like, I feel you're feeling into what I'm saying as well. Like, there isn't like this hate, like, for example, you being a Muslim. Like, if you have a Muslim, or like a faction, a group, if you will, of Muslims and a group of Christians in the same room, there's instantly going to be this propensity to be on separate sides of the rooms, have your own little spaces in which you're going to communicate. And then there might be this intention to communicate with one another, a mixing of. And then in that communication, there's going to be this is the truth from one person's standpoint, and then this is the truth from the other person's standpoint. And then you're both trying to convince each other of your truths and the truths that you've convinced each other of in your respective groups. And then as a result of this, there's this fundamental separate understanding of one another. We don't want to integrate, we don't want to allow people into our lives, we don't want to be our true selves. We don't want to just, be seen because, oh, this is someone that's other. It's other than me. Can't do these things. And we separate ourselves. We lose so much possible human experience, so many conversations we could have had. I would miss you if you were my son, bro. Oh, Toasty. Don't pricken my heartstrings, you beautiful being. Looking great, Mal the Quack. Thank you, Fred. Love to you. I appreciate you joining us. How are you doing? Quack, I'll call you. Hey, Katie is here with a helpful. Thank you for joining us, Katie. How are you doing? How are you feeling? It's been a weekend. It's been a weekend all alone, but I have not been lonely. Being productive, sending some of this your way. Thank you for sending some on B's way. Like, I happened to catch a little bit of it while I was sending. So thank you, Toasty. You are perfect the way you are, Meld. You are one of the most divine beings I've ever met. On B, thank you so much. As are you. I've seen the same thing with you and Uncle Becky as well. It makes me happy. I see the same thing in my friends, and it gives me hope. It genuinely gives me hope. And I don't consider myself anything better. I consider like all of us having this infinite potential to be divine, to live into this understanding of what we're capable of when it comes to our social ways of living. Like, again, it's this weird thing. So from a divine perspective, social interaction would be the energy that you use that for. Okay, like, bear with me. So by understanding that in your divine state you are infinite, and from that infinity flows your social currency, you can give to other beings in ways that you would never be able to in a physical manner. Like, be it money, be it like physical affection. Your ability to give love to other beings through, like, social currency, if that makes sense, like literally conversations listening to someone, being with someone, spending time with someone. These sort of things are infinitely valuable, and they flow from a space that is infinite. Like it doesn't stop. And we're all connected to that space. But accepting that infinity makes the finite reality that we're so entrenched in a little bit lackluster in a way. You know, like not the actual experience thereof, but the things that kind of drew you at first. And it feels like you're losing parts of yourself if you lose the things that drive you in some ways. My family also looks at me like I speak Japanese. I wish I actually spoke Japanese though. Like we're speaking, like I've been patronizing myself and calling it hippie mumbo jumbo. You know, like maybe we should just take it back. Yeah, it's hippie mumbo jumbo. You just do not understand the hippie mumbo jumbo. It's not my fault. Get good, dude. Thank you for the silver, Hope. I appreciate you. I think Christian discipleship is perceived in a way that Bonhoeffer calls cheap grace, when in fact following Christ is supposed to cost you everything, according to the gospel or the Pauline epistles. I've heard that as well, the way up is down, you know, and like I've had this conversation with my dad as well. Like, I don't believe that that's true. It shouldn't cost you everything, because technically, if it should cost you everything, there would be no sin in literally leaving your wife and kids, you know, on their own. Maybe your wife doesn't have the means to, you know, work. Maybe she has 4 kids that she has to take care of. And then you just leave to go and, you know, let's say do a mission. You know, you're going to go and convert other people. And then you spend your entire life, you know, maybe even not sending enough money home for your kids to be able to eat things, following this Christian pursuit, literally giving your life for this Christian pursuit, letting your wife and kids suffer, letting your kids grow into a state of resentment to their father and the religion that you follow because it took their father from them. And then going into, you know, your deathbed, if you will, fundamentally believing, having given your entire life for this cause. And I genuinely believe that if you were met with the judgment, as it's like conceived in Christian culture, you're going to be judged harshly, even though you gave everything, especially since you gave everything, because you didn't give it to the things that matter. What you have right now, the people you have right now, this infinite currency, like, you know, the analogy about keeping your talents underneath a bucket, keeping that social currency, that light you have inside of your soul underneath the bucket, not wanting to give it away because you think you're going to lose it. Cannot be lost. It cannot be lost. You know, and that's what I believe the message of Jesus was as well. You know, and in that way I understand the understanding, if that makes sense. But I believe that people deify him again in this way, in this attempt to separate. First, it was this God, you know, that came before Jesus. That was the way of separating. And then Jesus came and was like, bros, you're not separate. And then they were like, oh, goodness, don't listen to him. We're going to kill him. And then we're going to separate you again by making him the new God, or the new separator, if you will. That's the thing that I'm trying to say, the way up is down. Agreed, it takes knowing scripture to God is beyond them. Absolutely. Love to the YouTube friends. Miss you, Candace. I don't know if Candace is here, but if you are, Candace, we love you and we miss you as well. Yes, you're in YouTube. There we go. Oh, hey, Mel. Hey, Bonnie. It's nice to have you here. Are you consider and you consider that divine space? I'm confused. What is this? Good bud. Divine space? I don't consider anything divine space. I believe that we are fundamentally the consciousness, the awareness of our existence as human beings is divine in nature. And we have all of these layers attached to that that takes us further and further away, separates us more and more from that divinity. And we have the ability to get back into that divine space, if anything is. I hope that clears up some confusion, my friend. Thank you for asking. From what I learned, what Jesus brings to the followers came from the same God as mine. Even Jesus, the prophet that I must believe, is mandatory. Okay, that's interesting, Taipan. So in Muslim religion, you also believe Jesus was a prophet? I'm guessing then is what you're saying? Sending letters to God And yes, well, there we go. He sounds South African. Spirit of things, I am. I suppose I should get good. Lol. I'm just joking, my friend. It's literally just me jesting. It's a little bit of a poke. Like I got poked as well, but he is in South Africa. I knew it. You did, friend. You're pretty on spot. Naren says, all these diverse conversations later, I think one should believe in anything as long as it isn't presented as an objective fact that everyone else ought to believe in. Ooh, ooh. I saw like this beautiful transforming eye when I closed my eyes. Beautiful, Naren. That is like on the spot, you know. It's okay to believe in anything that you want to as long as you don't make that an objective fact that you expect everybody else to believe in as well. Thank you, Naren. That's beautiful. The wholesome. Thank you from Matthias. I appreciate it. The way Up is Down says, but if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for the members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. There we go. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you for quoting scripture. I didn't know that I was basically speaking scripture. Give me the information. I did read the Bible a lot though. But yeah, exactly, friend. So I don't believe it's about, giving your entire life. You're like technically giving your entire life by accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, right? But I believe it is the giving of your entire life in every single moment. That's what I believe, and I believe this in this text, if you will, of the only way to God is through Jesus, should be interpreted as behavior, as an analogy for his behavior. Like you cannot get to God unless you live through Jesus, like the way that he lived his life. That's what I believe is supposed to be interpreted from that. And I can respect that more so than I can like respect the fact that I have to accept him and then he mediates me into heaven. That doesn't make sense to me. It's way too convoluted. You were a good and faithful servant to yourself. I never knew you. Boop off. Just like, I'm an infinite being, and I claim in this Bible that you believe in that you are the crown of my creation. That's something the Bible says about us human beings, that we are the crown of God's creation. Create you to be a perceiving being, keeps getting more and more beings born, in a world like we have right now. How are you supposed to believe in God? So more and more potential atheists or non-believers are being born into this world, having infinite souls, and then because they didn't believe in me, they're being eternally damned to hell. Eternally, So I create you from nothing. I'm omnipotent and I'm all-knowing, so I know you're gonna go to hell. I still create you. I let you do your things, and then I send you to hell for eternity. How does that sound like a loving God? It doesn't make sense. And again, it's this separation. Like, do you think hell is outside of God? Like, God created hell as well then, on purpose. So it's still him. I cannot. I cannot. This topic keeps bamboozling me. Like it feels like it has so many logical fallacies. I don't really believe with the concept of heaven and hell. I don't either. The spirit of things. I don't either. I believe it's all a part of the whole. Exactly. I don't get why people have been judged by what they believe in. I believe it's because, I felt it myself doing it just now, so I'm pulling from that experience. It's this, what you believe in, becomes your objective reality. And then realizing / being told that someone believes in an objective reality that you cannot even fathom makes it literally feel like, at least from my perspective, like they live in a different reality than me. And it's like, how am I supposed to contact a person that lives in a different reality? My words aren't going to make sense. This person lives in a different reality. That's the trip. That's the trip, and that's why we separate ourselves. I believe the only divine thing we have is the neurons that run through our body and our brain. But that's just me, and I respect that belief completely. I believed that for a long time as well, my friend. I think it's important to note that the Bible is written from a very patriarchal point of view. Yes, yeah, perfect. Thank you. And that is skewed the point of view. There is divine feminine and divine masculine in a place where both live. Excuse me. Perhaps what you mean by divine space, maybe what, perhaps that's what you by divine space. So I agree completely with what you're saying, Nancy. The Christian Bible is this patriarchal dominator culture of the divine, where the matriarchal side of that is this oneness that I'm talking about, unity consciousness, loving one another fundamentally, giving every single person a voice because they are, And you're completely right, Nancy. So right. Boop, boop, the Bible. Was that a good point? You're the best bot, a Reddit book bot. We are either God or we are mud. Either way, I'ma love and live as Godman until it consumes me, until you melt back into a toasty. Hoorah! Let's go. Thank you for the wholesome Battle Charles. Agreed, Naren. What's up, melted homies? Andy, thank you for joining us. Oh, Cookie is here as well. She says, Melt. I can't stay, it's a very busy day, but sending you lots of love and positive vibes. Have a great day. Thank you, Cookie. Love to you, friend. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you for the wholesome and for the heartwarming. So much hello is being sent. Heard of the god of Spinoza? No, I haven't actually heard of the god of Spinoza, but I'm fascinated. You want to tell me about it? I used to hide from these fallacies. We do. I found myself, hiding from them as well. And then I realized it's like, the most fire ammunition ever. Because we had Bible classes in high school. So it was like just me throwing fire at the priests. I was like, oh, really? How about this? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting explanation. But how about this? I mean, doesn't make that much sense, but I'll accept it. How about this? They really didn't like me. Because, like it is, these logical fallacies, especially if you can consider how many people had a hand in writing the books. Genesis, by the way, on like a historical level, the books of Genesis we have was written, at least the original books, was written after the rest of the Bible. Yeah. You know what that means? Yeah, you can feel for yourself. For that question, and creating beings that God knows will not choose him, I recommend Alvin paintings, God, Freedom, and Evil. There is no evil, right? It's all God, dude. It's all God. It's a hard one for us to swallow, but it's all God. I don't really believe in anything related to the divine. I'm agnostic. I used to. I respect it completely, spirit of things. I appreciate you nonetheless, and I'm curious about your username actually. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, my friend. I used to cover them up with conviction and scripture. Paradox isn't something that can be tolerated in the Western Christian culture. Yeah, churches. You're completely right. Because it's not something that you can like try and explain away. And man, like I don't even want to get into that topic again. You're most welcome, as are you. The way up is down. Thank you for being here with us, for listening nonetheless. Like if I've been, I want to say insensitive in any way, please do forgive me as well. The shame is amplified. It is fair enough. Who would have thought unbiased and critical thinking might be a better way to control people than fear-mongering people spiritually into the masses, or fear-mongering the masses into spirituality. Maybe that's the way it should be read. I'm sorry, Toasty. Like, I agree completely. Like, that's technically what happened. They created this entire system, got people to get invested in this system, and then created this guilt / judgment-based system of what is going to happen to them if they don't live in the way that they're expected to be living. And it's just it's fear-mongering, dude. And I believe we're now in a society where, as you're saying, unbiased and critical thinking is becoming what's expected in some realms. And then we have literal entire corporations trying to make people think biased and take critical thinking away from them as well. It's literally just religion 101, technically. Now, in your own perspective, tell me how many genders we should believe exist and acknowledge. Might be too controversial. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. So, I believe on a biological level, there are X and Y chromosomes, you know, but I believe people get to be whatever they want to be, dude. You know, if I want to claim I'm a alien from the planet Zubjab, then why do you want to question me? Oh, I'm not stating this as fact that I want you to believe in it as well. That's the problem I have, if anything. You know, when it's this expectation that you now have to accept all of these ridiculousnesses. You know, if it's someone in your immediate environment, someone that you're friends with, for example, and you have that respect for them and you can live into their character, then I understand it. But expecting society as a whole to play into the character as well, that I don't believe in. Because I think it's egotistical, fundamentally. Like, if I believe I am God, for example, and I expect everybody to believe I'm God as well, then it's a problem. You know, then it's a problem. And I feel it's the same thing with some of these genders. You know, I'm not saying you don't get to believe these things, but if you say everybody else has to believe those things as well, then it's a problem. Our egos fundamentally is not even us. You know, like our ego is something that gets projected onto us from a fundamental baby level. You know, the name that I got given, for example, my parents just like broadcasts this stuff over my entire being. I start to identify with this name, you know, and if I then expect everybody else to identify me by a certain name as well, it's the same problem. It's the same problem. It is a controversial subject. I believe that people have the freedom to do what they want to, and I have the respect for them to do what they want to, as long as it harms no one else. So there's no expectation, fundamental expectation. If it's a choice from the individual, you know, if I respect you and this is what you want me to do, then that respect can be reciprocated because you're respecting me in that same way as well. But if it's like everybody has to believe this is the truth, that's where the problem I think comes in. Simple thought, I immediately think they didn't know any better slash different. It's not right, but they're like, yep, we're rolling with it. Oh goodness, absolutely, I agree. I was indoctrinated at age 4. Me too, Toasty. Like they started us young, dude. Started us young, basically when we were most likely to believe them as well. You know, because on a fundamental level, a child, if you tell a child, don't touch that red stovetop, and he's like, oh, what is this fucking bitch now? Touch road steps, touch red stovetop, get freaking scorched. You're like, oh shit, I really should have listened to this adult being. And then this adult being is like, you're gonna go to hell, burn eternally in forever suffering if you don't believe this thing. And you're like, fuck. I mean, if I burnt my fingers and it was such a hectic experience because I didn't listen to her, maybe I should believe her and listen to her with this thing as well. And then it's like, gets ingrained in our brains. It's kind of trippy, you know. It's the fundamental weird part about it is that's exactly what happened to our parents as well. And being able to, you know, break out of that, that's the most difficult part. Being able to break out of it and still keep your sense of self, you know, at least the self that you think you are. Mel doesn't shy away from any conversation. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. On B, like I feel like I'm walking on eggshells just with what I said, but that's what I believe about it. And I feel maybe there will be some resonance with you friends in that as well. Again, it's about us having personal choices, you know, us honoring one another as divine beings. And it goes both ways. You know, if you force me to do things, you're not honoring me as a divine being. So if you want me to call you on a certain pronoun, for example, or a certain gender, and I respect you enough because you respect me enough, then it can be something that can be, you know, reciprocated. But if it's an expectation, like this is the way that it is, and if you don't do it this way, you're gonna get cancelled, then I feel it's that respect falls apart, and then we're back to step one. You know, that's where all of the demonization, where all of the stigma comes from, fundamentally, separating us again. Gender is a human construct, just like all methods of classification. Humans are simple particles arranged human-like. My sexual chemistry is male because that's what we scientifically classify it as. Scientific gender doesn't dictate behavior, shouldn't. No, not the eternal red chat. So dumb. Yeah, exactly, dude. And you're completely right, Toasty. You know, I believe gender norms and gender human constructs are falling apart right now as well. And it makes me happy. It genuinely makes me happy that we're moving past this expectation of what you're supposed to do if you're a certain gender. And I believe technically people creating genders of their own or identifying as different genders, that is that breaking out of these human classification systems. But they're trying to do so by naming it, putting themselves in a different classification. And then it's like, oh, I'm non-binary, which is technically, you know, not trying to classify, which I think is even better, but still classifying. Nonetheless, as you're saying as well, Toasty, we have these male or female scientific classifications. If you like look at the cells and the way they're built, you know, XX chromosomes or XY chromosomes, you'll find that information to identify either male or female. And then on top of that, we have, you know, certain people born with both sexual organs. So how do you classify that? You know, should you classify it at all? Why did we start classifying? It's just, again, another separation. No, the eternal red stove top. To make someone choose male or female now seems like it's only to classify people into roles we believe they should have. There you go. We should just be beings, you know, friends. We're not, we're humans and we're all friends. You know, no male, no female, all friends. Stop it. The reason is we live in a very, 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 very sensitive world nowadays. Words that you think are cotton, forgotten, that you think is clean maybe, might be I think is cotton, might be a sore to others, especially in a canceling community. I think that's not how the world should handle it. I think so as well, and I think we're seeing it in some ways as well, fortunately, and it's getting better. So, I love you, friends, so much. Thank you for being willing to share these conversations with me. That's what's most important, you know? Like, I feel, if anything, a resistance to trying to talk about a topic that might be uncomfortable to talk about or shy-inducing is this feeling of, you know, what are other people going to think if I talk about something like this? And I think it's a limitation. So knowing that you friends appreciate that takes even more limitation away from me. I appreciate you. Same wavelengths, my friend. Oh, we are. Absolutely. I think that in English, it is translated as believe in Christ. It would be better translated as trust in and be faithful to. Okay? Like, according to the Bible, more factual belief is insufficient. Mere factual belief. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. That's beautiful. I appreciate you so much. The way up is down. Thank you, friends, for sharing this space with me, for being in this moment with me again today. I love you. Love you. You know, the same I that we all are loves the I that I am, loves the I that you are. I love you, friend. Thank you for joining me. I prefer to tap into our individual gifts and help nurture our desires to what we want to do in the world. Sorry if I got distracted to your questions. No worries whatsoever, Spirited. I appreciate you, friends, sharing the space. I look forward to seeing all of you again tomorrow. Love you, Toasty, my friend. Goodbye, everyone.